After seriously falling behind in the video game the past couple years, Nikon has made a huge step by acquiring Red, the Red cinema camera. And this is a huge shock, especially because last year Red sued Nikon for patent infringement based on some raw file compression because Red has a patent over raw compression in a certain way. I don't know all the details, but I do know that the lawsuit was happening, and then it was later dismissed because they just didn't have the grounds to actually do it. Again, I don't know everything for it, but that's just kind of the Spark Notes version. But this could be huge for photographers, for filmmakers, for hybrid shooters. I'm wondering if suddenly we might see something where, Nikon has a competitor to some more kind of prosumer cinema cameras, something a little more entry level than, say, like a Red Dragon or a Red Weapon or stuff like that. Something that can compete with something like the FX3, let's say, or the FX6, something of a smaller form factor, geared more towards running gun shooters, more like really small documentary stuff. Maybe something that would even go against like the Blackmagic pocket cameras, stuff like that. Because I'm sure they'll probably still be producing the similar style of cinema cameras that we've come to expect from Red, but I think they are probably going to adapt that technology and that cinema aesthetic towards their more photocentric cameras. And this might be a step for Nikon to get back in the video game because honestly, they fell behind. Sony really took off in the last few years. Canon didn't, they lagged behind a bit, but they caught up, maybe not quite as much as Sony is at this point, but they're still having a firm fitting, right? And I think Nikon making this move will have some great effects in that kind of market where Sony has a lot of these cameras, where I think they should be careful to not kind of shy away from as well is the higher end cinema cameras that can compete with, say, the Sony Venice, which are used on huge budget shows, feature films, etc. I've worked with them on set. And of course, the RE Alexa series, whether it's Mini LF, Alexa 35, competing still with larger cinema cameras. Now, if you've worked with RE, there's this big difference in workflow and quality between them and a Red camera. RE is kind of like the gold standard in cinema as far as digital technology goes. But I've still used a bunch of Red cameras on set and I've been happy with them, generally speaking. But I think this gives Nikon a really strong place, if they play their cards right, to actually take a leap that's been needed for them in the video market, in the cinema market, filmmaking, and really take the next steps that they just haven't been in the past few years, that really fell by the wayside for them. And yeah, I mean, a lot of their mirrorless cameras are great, but they're not to what is expected from the other competitors out there at the moment. And I've seen this from numerous photographers and filmmakers that have left Nikon behind, and some stick with them, but they have, their gripes. And if you're a hybrid shooter, or if you're more of a filmmaker, maybe right now you wouldn't consider Nikon, but maybe that might change in the future. Let me know your guys' thoughts. Have you worked with Red cameras personally? Have you been a Nikon shooter? Did you switch? Did you stay with them? What do you think this means for everyone?